Shalom. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashem Warakah Gwadash. And double honors to the elder apostles of the great millstone that have taught us this truth, and including the elder bishops on down, and Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Brakatham to the elect overall, and this your brother Laban. So, I want to do this video concerning the topic of Job, because one of the brothers have wanted some clarification in regards to the time period of when Job was on the scene, as I can quite remember. And a few scholars have announced, their perspective on that, and which I would agree with the scholars that have declared, their side on things in regards to what time period he was in, because you've also had scholars that have even said that he's been around, right around, or just a little bit after the flood, which I don't really agree with that. I would more so agree with the idea that he was in the period of time between the flood and Moses' time. All right, because during Moses' time, it was already solidified that the Israelites were on the scene, and Job was not even close to the time period when Israel was on the scene. There was no such thing as the Israelites at the time. Okay, so again, I would agree with the fact that Job was on the scene when Abraham was on the scene, and Isaac and Jacob and the likes. That's what I would mostly agree with. And one way that you can kind of see why I would agree with that, because in the first verse, especially verse 3, as it reads, his substance also was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yokes of oxen and 500 she asses. Right? So verse 3 measures his wealth based on his livestock. So the same was had with Abraham. Abraham's wealth was measured in the same way. Okay? So that's why I would agree that he must have been in that time period, which, they call it the patriarchal time period, which the scholars would say the patriarchal time period ranges from 2000 BC to 1500 BC. So the very few scholars that I would go with and agree with his in regards to the period of time that he was in, which was probably right around, from 22 BC to 19 BC, which is right around the same time when Abraham and them was alive. Once again. So so what I want to do is I want to read a little bit of this over here as well from gotquestions.org. And as the answer has it, Job is a legendary for his exemplary response to great suffering. We know little about the dates and settings pertaining to Job, but many scholars believe the book of Job is one of the oldest in the Bible. That does not mean that Job himself lived before anyone else in the Bible. He most certainly came after Adam. But there are hints that Job lived a truly ancient time, of course. Job offered sacrifices himself for his family instead of relying on a priest. Job 1 and 5, Job 42, 7 and 8. And his wealth was measured. I can't even say the word, man. Come on. His wealth was measured in livestock, not gold. It is likely that Job lived sometimes between the flood and the time of Moses. Many scholars place Job in the patriarchal period around the same time that Abraham lived. Genesis 11:28 and verse 29. And absolutely, I would definitely agree with that time period. All right. So, let's read some more of this as well. It seems clear that Job lived prior or prior. It seems clear that Job lived prior to the giving of the law, since the book of Job makes no mention of the tabernacle or temple priests or the law given to Israel. If Job's life indeed predated the law, he may have lived sometime around 22 BC, making him a contemporary of Abraham, Lot, and Isaac. And another clue that places Job in the time period to Moses is in fact that Job gave his daughters inheritance among their brethren. Job 42, and we're going to read that. Job 42 and verse 15. And in all of the land where no women found so fair as the daughters of Job, and their fathers gave them inheritance among their brethren. Right. And the scholar is absolutely correct, of course, that, during the time under the Mosaic law, you would give your wealth to your sons instead of your daughters. All right. Now, if you didn't have any sons, then you would have to give it to somebody, right? But no, he had daughters and he had sons, but he gave his wealth to his daughters instead. All right. Among their brethren. See, so he had sons. So there you go. So that's all I pretty much got to say on this. I'm gonna be leaning towards the period of time when he was on the scene, which is between 1900 BC to 2200 BC. And that's my take on this right here. And hopefully, this was edifying, especially if you brothers have been trying to figure out, where does Job fit in the timeline of things and all of that, So again, I'm just going with the few scholars that would agree with the fact that he was in that period of time when Abraham was on the scene and his sons. All right. So with that, I'm closing, and I say shalom.